Welcome to another Quantum Conversation. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Welcome to another episode of the Quantum Conversation Summit Series Timelines. And in this episode, we are talking about diminishing the timeline of aging. My guest today is absolutely a pioneer in this field. We're going to be talking about DNA expression cellular upgrade, or DECU. This is a fascinating ability for us to control our DNA, to program our DNA, to come into 0 point and express from there. Let's meet Jules Arnes. Hi, Jules. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm just so happy to connect with everyone that's listening today.
Now, this is a fascinating branch of your research. You have been doing this for several years now, and people absolutely love it. So we've said DNA expression cellular upgrade, but can you share more on really what this is and what's going on here?
Yes, this is actually the very first, I guess you could say, kind of where I really started manipulating more on a cellular level. And I actually say manipulation because we do have the ability to manipulate our genetics. And at the time, I was really fascinated with Bruce Lipton's work. And I always kind of thought, okay, he is on to something. But of course, I always go beyond, right? It's always there to be seen to go beyond. And so that is the journey of DQ or DECU, is that it brings you into a space where you're able to identify the programming that the cells are running, and then being able to turn on an expression of frequency. And when we do that, we start to shift the identity of the body, or how the cells are identifying and functioning. Because right now we're only using about 2% of our DNA potential. We have two strands that are activated. And this is truly the journey of activating the other 10, and what that actually does on a conscious level, as well as what it does for the body, because the body is only expressing about 2% of its potential.
Yeah, that's fascinating because we all want this. And so when it comes to aging, you're actually going into the cells, and this involves belief systems of ourselves, right? So our cells are listening. Talk more about how we are actually identifying. How do we identify what it is that the cell is expressing? And
Mhm.
then how do we turn on a frequency?
And that's the question, right? That's the biggest question. And that's what I love about DQ, is that it does teach the individual that is learning it how to read subtle energy, because knowing what your body is in the expression of is always the first step, is having the awareness of what programming is my body running. And our body is truly a programmed system, whether it's through the primal system, or it's a system of our own beliefs, or even the beliefs of the collective, or the beliefs of the matrix, if you will. We're looping in it because we are identifying in what is been proven, shown, what we repeat in our daily thoughts, or even the subconscious level of creating those timelines. So what is a timeline? A timeline is something that is created through observation. And so if we are observing through our belief systems, or we are observing through the programmed system of the body, we are creating that looping cycle of age and disease. And we can actually break that just by identifying what those belief systems are. And then with just some simple tools, being able to teach consciousness to actually experience what the body is and that other, you could say the other 10 strands of DNA, the other 90% of the body, because, whether we're in 2% or 90%, it's really hard to say. But I think that we all can agree that we are only experiencing a very small portion of what we're capable of.
Yes, absolutely. And so when we're talking about aging, then we can say as a collective, there's a huge program running. There's a huge program running. So let's say, for example, wrinkles. Oh my goodness. Okay. What is happening there? Because there's a program that's coming up that everyone gets old. I mean, that's from when we were little kids looking out at the world and observing the world. So as we were little kids and we look out and observe the world, we've actually adopted or accepted the timeline that says when you get a certain age, you're going to get wrinkles, or I'm even going to flip that and say the cosmology, the cosmetology, the cosmetic world, right?
Mhm.
The cosmetic world says when you reach a certain age, that's time for your first facelift. So you
Oh,
see, it's all programming, right? And so when we just go along and buy into it, and then when we're buying face creams, for example, right? We're buying into that timeline again of aging with the hopes that that's going to correct things. What are your thoughts on this?
that is such a huge part of what DQ is teaching. So the first part of DQ, you're learning how to reprogram, and then you move into what I call own codes. And that's when you're actually recoding on a DNA level. But the biggest thing that portion of the course teaches is where you're hooking into the environment to receive information, because that's how our cells are functioning right now. They're looking into the environment to be told, okay, it's time to turn on an epigenetic code. And Dr. Sinclair actually did a study on what aging is, and aging is an epigenetic code, which, because it's an epigenetic code, as we all know, it can be turned on, but it also can be turned off. And so when we start to shift the cell from observing its environment in order to be told what to do, to actually moving into the expression of a frequency that's transcribed in our DNA. And that's when we start to activate those other 10 strands. The cell actually starts to move into an expression of an intelligence. Well, in that space, what creates timelines? Observation. If you're an expression of an intelligence, there's no observations. It's just an expression. You can see it like the sun. The sun is just shining. It's not looking outside of itself to say, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And oh, this person's looking at me and that person's not. And this person likes me and this person doesn't. It's just shining. It's shining a frequency. And that frequency we're absorbing and we are living by. But we also are just like the sun. When we move into expression, we are just an energy source that never diminishes over time and space. And some could argue, well, doesn't the sun have diminish, will one day diminish? And I'm going to say, well, it hasn't so far. So it's lasting a lot longer than we are.
Yes, all right. Well, I love this. So, expressing this intelligence then, when we are looking at the shifting from what the cell is experiencing, or observing from the environment, how do we then recognize that? What's your process for this?
So we teach the technology. So with the evolution scalar technology, it's a scalar, it's a
Sure.
symbol that's using a scalar technology, and the different parts of the technology are doing different things. And so the first three symbols, like for example, the first symbol, and we'll do a process at the end where you can see the symbols, but the first symbol is bringing the body into that no space, no time. And then the second symbol is allowing consciousness to be held in that. And we actually teach the seven states of consciousness that hold no space, no time, so that you know how to use tools to use consciousness for what it is. And the crazy thing is that consciousness is a tool. It's a tool to becoming the intelligence that's in expression. Then the last symbol is actually turning on that frequency of source so that the cell moves into expression. And what I love about this process is that, yes, you're using the technology and you're experiencing it consciously, but your consciousness is not what's doing it. The technology is doing it because the technology is attuning or opening up that frequency for the body to attune to. So, on a cellular level, the technology is doing the work to bring the cell in outside of that looping cycle of the matrix or observation, the programmed body, and it's bringing it into the multidimensional state of what I call the quantum body. And when that happens, your consciousness has the experience of it. So it's not doing it because consciousness is limited, because it's limited to what we can actually hold. Your body is limitless. When it gets turned on, you become limitless. And your practice is to attune your consciousness to that limitlessness.
Yes. Okay. All right. So to recap that, we're working with scalar energy. That's the technology.
Yes.
And scalar energy, some may know about this, that is source frequency. What do
Mhm.
you know about scalar energy and how does it work? It knows exactly where to go. It is like almost like the sun broadcasting its light.
Yes. Yes. So the frequency, so we work a lot with the frequency of 963, which is also measured at the frequency of source. And of course, if you're measuring it in a Hertz wave, but we convert it to scalar. So scalar is, you can see the difference between a Hertz wave and a scalar wave is when it's a Hertz wave, it's like playing the piano. So somebody comes into a room and they play, let's say this something that's in 528 Hertz. As soon as they stop playing, the frequency will eventually diminish and leave the room because a Hertz wave diminishes over time and space. A scalar wave does not diminish over time and space. And you can actually still program a scalar wave to a specific frequency. We use the frequency of 963 in the technology because that is holding the intelligence of source. And that same frequency is already transcribed in your DNA. So when we're activating this technology, the technology is already working with your divine molecular technology. It's the technology that we're all going to eventually move into as we evolve as human race. All we're doing is we're actively participating in that evolution so that we can both experience it consciously and that we can participate in it. Because if it's something that we're choosing in, let's say, breaking the timeline of aging or diminishing the timeline of aging, that's an active participation that we can have with an innate knowing that we already have. So many of us get shocked when we see somebody age because we know deep down inside that it's not supposed to be that way. And or even looking in the mirror, it's like, who is that person? Because on a conscious level, we know that that isn't what we're supposed to be experiencing. That's why we can use this active participation of a knowing that's not through the ego. It's a knowing because that knowing is transcribed in our DNA of what we're supposed to actually be experiencing.
Yes, and I am hearing our audience say, okay, so, you know, if we're talking genetics and we've seen our mother or
Mhm.
our grandmothers or our aunts, and we see how they age,
Mhm.
that's programming us. So then we're going to stop that. I can hear everyone saying, I want to stop that.
Yeah.
And so it's really like a belief, identifying the belief that that's there, right? But we're taking it for, and you're using other tools like you
Mhm.
go into, and there's a lot into it. And you've actually got an 8 class course that we're going to be talking about for people to participate in. But that process then is just our awareness that we don't have to buy into it. Is it as simple as that, or is there more to it?
There's definitely more to it. I think if it was just as easy as saying, okay, I don't want to believe that and I want to believe this, we
Mhm.
would all already be doing it, right? But because we are so programmed to hold consciousness and observation, it it isn't, we can't do it that way. It has to move into a knowing. And the only way to know something is to experience it, is to really go deep, so deep into the knowing that you start to experience the other side of the programmed body. And it's right inside of us. So that's the crazy thing, is it's not outside, it's not in the creams, it's not in this. And that's why I'm so focused on teaching the tools and the technology so that you can begin to turn on these frequencies in your own body. And then your consciousness hits it and has the experience and, oh my gosh, this is true. And it teaches how to hold consciousness outside of observation. And if you really think about that, that is the biggest challenge that we all have, is because we are so identified in our reality, in our thoughts, in what we see in the mirror, that to put consciousness somewhere where we're not in reflection of a programmed reality is not an easy thing to do. That's why we use the technology or the frequencies, so that we're turning the body on to have that experience. And then all of a sudden our consciousness kind of hits it and it just has the experience as well. Once consciousness has the experience of what that is, there's no going back.
Wow. Okay. Everyone wants it. Everyone's like, yes, let's learn more. I know you've got a few slides that you can share with us, but the tools and technology then, this is fascinating. We want to learn more about that. Those
Yeah.
tools. Can we do like a little mini course or look a little bit at those tools and technology?
Will do. I think the best thing we'll do, I'll go through my slides, and I'm just thinking about the slides and I actually don't have the technology on them, but I do have them sitting right here. So we'll do an activation at the end. And so much of what we talked about is actually in the slides, but I think it's nice to have a visual and kind of just to see what's actually happening here, because I mean, for me, it's always fun to see it beyond just hearing. So I'm sure there'll be more that'll come through as I go through the slides. Okay, so DQ, DNA expression cellular upgrade. And this is the process of ascending the cells, activating cell ascension. Okay, so this is how the body is operating right now. And just as I was saying, you could say this, the circle around the man is the matrix, and how it's programming and it's creating looping cycles. It's funny, I'm just looking at this of the eternity sign or the infinity sign, and there's two ways of looking at this. One is that we go on forever. And that is true. Our consciousness that's connected to the intelligence, we do continue on. But you can also see it as a looping cycle. And it's funny, in my first book, Transcendence, A Journey into Oneness Through the God Particle, I actually had a activation come through that was breaking the infinity sign and bringing us into one state of being. Because once you become the intelligence of Source, you no longer have the experience of the observation of what eternity would be. You are just eternal. So when we are observing what eternity is, we're actually creating a timeline. But when we become the frequency of 963, or we become the intelligence of source, we immediately break all timelines because we are only in one frequency. We're in the expression of that frequency, and that frequency is intelligent. And we can have the experience of this through our body. So right now, our cells are running the program of the matrix. I'm sure if you've heard me speak before, you've heard a little bit about Vale's story, but I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to just share this experience as well. Because when Vale came to me after he passed away on his 22nd birthday, that was the first thing that he said, is that it is not supposed to be this way. We are not supposed to die. And he then showed me the ascension of the cells. And this is what I will be teaching, is the very beginning of cell ascension and how we can move the body itself outside the timeline of the cycle of aging, because it is a looping cycle. All right, let's continue. Oh, did you have any questions about that before I go on?
It's fascinating. It really is fascinating. And it's almost like this is embodiment in a way, where this is active embodiment. You're explaining embodiment of matching that frequency, becoming the source frequency. And we can see how ending observation, and it's kind of a mind blower, but we're starting to see it here and how it works. So it's really fascinating. Becoming the frequency of 963, or what is called the intelligence of source, and that breaks all timelines, that breaks all belief systems. That really is how we activate the cell ascension. Fascinating.
It is one of those things where if you try to understand it with the mind, it kind of melts the mind, because
Yeah.
how do we exist without observation? How do we exist without identity? But the truth is that is our innate being, and we aren't going to get there through the mind. We're going to get there through attuning consciousness to intelligence that's beyond the mind, and that's the frequency of source. So this kind of brings us right into our next slide here is, so often we're focused on consciousness, and consciousness is a big part of this, but it's important to know that consciousness is actually just a tool. Consciousness is not who we are. Consciousness is the part of us that's observing who we are. Because when we become conscious, even on a subconscious level, it's still running a program. And so when we are trying to use the projection of our consciousness, we're still projecting another looping cycle of the matrix. And this is a big part of what Vale was showing me. And he actually showed it to me through the inversion of the flower of life, how as soon as you think you mastered something, you just shift into another circle, and then you start looping there and you start looping there, because we can't move outside of the matrix by projecting consciousness through the observation of programming. It will never happen. We'll keep looping. And this is like, right, what I'm saying right now is so life-changing that it is where we are going to next as the human race, is when we learn that consciousness is only a tool, and we learn the correct way to use that tool, we will advance as a human race in a very, very fast way. So the way we're using consciousness right now is we're observing, oh, that's my programming. Okay, well, what do I want it to be? Okay, I'm going to be this instead. And then you loop in that next place, because where that decision came from was from a program. And so that's why I teach the DQ process, because in some ways that is important, because having awareness, conscious awareness that you're looping in a program, is the number one place that we all have to start in order to evolve the body through the ascended DNA. So I'm going to keep it there because we'll come back to this. So in the beginning, it is important to know, what are my cells saying right now. That level one of what awareness is and how we can use consciousness to shift awareness or consciousness into a higher space. So in the beginning, we read the programs of our cells. We learn to read subtle energy. And that is, oh, I'm running the program of I am unworthy. And because I'm running that program, my very cells are running that same program. And guess what? That means my DNA is reading the environment of my thoughts of I am unworthy and begin to create timelines on an epigenetic level that are reflecting that frequency. So if your consciousness is creating the frequency of your body through observation, through either the subconscious or the awareness of you that you know that you feel unworthy and you're just not able to shift out of it, it's creating a looping cycle that is creating age and disease. And of course, creating a reality that is reflecting back to you your unworthiness. In DQ, we learn how to shift or reprogram on a cellular level, not through the mind, but through the cells. So we go into the cells using the technology, that evolution technology that we were talking about earlier, and we shift the cell from holding, I am unworthy, to, in this example, I am powerful. When the cells begin to realize that they can shift identity, it starts to turn on the technology and the cells begin to express a new identity. So in this case, we're raising the frequency of the cells through the I am, from I am unworthy to I am powerful. And when the cells begin to realize, oh, it's that easy, I can actually turn on this new frequency. And because it's being held in the evolution technology, it's holding that expression of I am powerful and overrides the conscious mind. Because then the body becomes the frequency of I am powerful. Because you are literally turning that frequency on. You can see it like you become the scalar device. You are expressing that. And then where is your consciousness? Well, right now your consciousness is experiencing your body. So when your cells begin to express a frequency of I am powerful, and what does a scalar frequency do? It doesn't diminish over time and space. It's consistently expressing that frequency. And over time, as you continue to reprogram your cells, your consciousness hits the frequency, and then you step into the reality of I am powerful. Do you have any questions about that, Lauren, before I move on?
No, I'm just feeling what that is like. And I'm certain that others can feel this, sensing into it. I think most of us, the majority, especially of light workers, have a thread of I am unworthy. And so shifting it, I know we're not even using the technology, but feeling into this, wow, it almost brings the question, it's permanent then, because the scalar energy never diminishes. And so if we are doing this process and we're feeling powerful, but then something outside of us comes back
Mhm.
and we observe it or we are reminded of it, what happens then?
And that's what we're going to go into.
Okay.
Yes, because that's when your consciousness moved back into the observation of the program, right? And that's where people get looped into,
Yes.
oh, well, now I have to clear it again. Now I have to clear it again. But really, in reality, it's a signal of, oh, I just moved back into that virus. But now I know I activated that other scalar frequency. So that's why consciousness is the tool, right? Because consciousness can't create the new reality. What consciousness can do is attune to a frequency where it creates a new reality. And by being able to hold consciousness in a frequency, and it gives us a new level of an intelligence to move into. But if we're trying to create that intelligence from the consciousness that created the program, we loop. And so that's where we will move into that here. So that was such a great question.
Yes, the looping.
The
Okay.
looping. We all know it. We all know it. All right. So with that, as we start to reprogram the body, our body starts to raise in frequency. So these are kind of there are 5 levels of the light body or the quantum body, if you will. And you do learn the technology, and the light bodies are a big part of that. And I won't necessarily go through the bodies here, but I can just go through the awakening process because each one of them holds a level of consciousness. So the first is just running in the programming and having absolutely no idea that you're running a program. And some of you may know that this would be somebody where you're always just on eggshells because you never know how they're going to react because they're so in their primal programming that everything is a reaction to life. And then we go to the second light body, which is that, oh, wait a minute, I actually do have a choice in whether or not my body ages. I do have a choice on whether or not I want to exist in the reality that I'm experiencing. And so the body starts to shift to a higher frequency because you are identifying that you were once in a programmed experience. You woke up in the matrix, if you will. So it immediately raises your frequency because you are identifying that there's more than the programmed experience. Then we move into the third level or the third body, which is also the third level of consciousness. And this is where a lot of people stop because they have been taught to project consciousness. They are projecting it through what they desire or what they want, which is actually a program. So I want to stop diminishing aging. And but where they're actually holding that desire is coming from and either a resistance to the matrix or well, you can see where I'm going with that. And a lot of I call this the level of trying to make it happen because you're trying to change something that's from a program within a program. It's just
Interest.
another loop.
Wow, that right there is mind expanding
Mhm.
because it shows us that it's programs within programs. And really what you're getting at is get outside of all of it. Again, that's that knowingness. But knowingness is not a program. It's
No.
not a desire. It's different.
It is. And that's where right here, kind of between these two bodies, is where we can actually master using intention. Because if the intention is, okay, I'm going to break the timeline of aging, let's say, as soon as you say the intention, you're actually activating a frequency in your body that has an intelligence that will show you how to do that. But then we have to release the outcome, the attachment to what that intention was, and then use consciousness to attune to the intelligence that was activated because we can't project it anymore. That's why we have to shift consciousness to projecting what it is we want, to attuning to the intelligence that was activated by using the intention to activate it. So once we learn to do that, we move into the fourth light body, and that is the listen and do. Oh, go ahead.
Say that one more time. That is worthy of repeating. We need to shift consciousness.
From projecting. So when we have an intention and let's say it's diminishing the timeline of aging, when we do that, it activates that frequency that's transcribed in our DNA, the frequency of source, because 963 has intelligence and it knows everything. So we're asking, oh, well, we want to do that. So it's kind of like I call it the Google system. So you Google how to diminish the timeline of aging. Well, at that point, the frequency of the answer to that is turned on in your DNA, and it's your body actually becomes the answer in the frequency of source. And so at that point, you have to let go of projecting what it is consciously into your reality, because remember, consciousness always wants to be observing. So it's going to be observing its environment for the evidence. You're every time you look in the mirror, well, did it work? Did it work? You're looking for the evidence,
Right.
which is looping you in
Okay.
the cycle. But when we start to use our tool of consciousness for how it's supposed to be used, we start to attune. So we match the frequency that was activated when we asked that. And so what our job is to notice, am I just trying to project and attach and look at the outcome? Or am I attuning my consciousness to the frequency that was released when I set this intention? And so this becomes the practice as attuning versus projecting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Of
Everyone, write
course.
that down. I mean, write that on a sticky note. That is worthy of, that is such a huge awareness. Our
Mm.
consciousness, moving it, shifting it from projection, projection into an attunement, attuning to the frequency. Okay. I know many are wrapping their heads around that. So wonderful. Thank you for that.
One of my favorite ways of describing what attuning means is it's just like you're tuning a piano. So you have the machine that's like I would say it's putting out 963. This is if and this would be of course through sound, but okay, so this is 963 and then you're pressing the piano trying to match that exact frequency. We're doing the same thing with our consciousness. We're trying to match the frequency that was released.
And so as we go to attune that frequency, we really just have to get out of the way. Our mind cannot match. So it's an allowing of that frequency. It's a knowing that that frequency is there.
Mhm.
And it's really just, there's nothing to do then, really, is there? There's nothing to do but
It's
allow.
I would say yes, it's the allowing. And then if you shift out of the allowing, having the awareness that that happened, and then moving back into the allowing, because that's the biggest part is our mind wants to be occupied in observation. And that's why using the technology and learning to read energy gets you to a place where you're very aware of what you're existing in. Am I existing in those lower frequencies of the I am? Am I existing in the higher frequency of the I am? Or am I in the allowing? And that's what this fourth body is more of that listen and do. So you're attuning, and then you may at that point hear information. And this is actually part of what you'll learn in the course is the levels of intuitive powers, because right now we're experiencing life mostly through our five senses. But as we expand into the quantum body or this higher level of the experience of what it is to be human, our intuition become our new senses. So we begin to hear before we hear, we see before we see, we know before we know, all of those that sort of things. So this is the fourth body, which is more of that listen and do. So you're attuning your consciousness, you're getting information, and that information may be saying, okay, you're going to do this now. Okay, you're going to do this now. And some of those things may be a different way of looking at yourself when you're in the mirror, like giving you kind of like, oh, try it from this place. And or you have those insights of like different loops that you were choosing that you weren't even aware of. So that's where those hits, the downloads, all of those things start to experience is this fourth light body in the fourth level of consciousness. And then I'll briefly go into the fifth level of consciousness because this is full, what I call bioquantum. And it's when the body moves into the full expression of 963. It's in the fifth level of consciousness is when you just become intelligent. There's no more listen and do. There's no gap between consciousness and the intelligence. In this level, consciousness actually doesn't exist anymore because there's no reason to be conscious because you become the intelligence of source. Observation goes away, timelines diminish, and you are in full expression of source as the body.
Fascinating.
Okay, let's continue. All right. So in the beginning of DQ, we're learning to ascend the cells through the I am, moving from I am worthy or I am unworthy to I am powerful. But this I will never forget the day that this happened. I was on a hike and I had in an interview, somebody challenged me because I can remember when I broke off from the intelligence, like broke off of source. Like I can actually remember being in source frequency and breaking off and turning around and realizing that I was an observation of myself. And
Mm.
somebody challenged me and asked, well, why? And it brought me down this just wormhole. And I can't really say that like I won't go in because the answer to that is such a long question. You actually learn the answer to that in DQ. But what I realized was that even for me to say I am source, I am God, is still separation. And I call it the nine reflecting nine or source reflecting source. And when we come to, that's the highest level of the I am, is when we realize we are source, right? But when we're saying I am something, we're still in conscious observation of a timeline. And so we bring the body to this frequency to where the cells are all holding the frequency of the identity of I am source, which brings us to the next level of human evolution, which is codes. Once we move beyond identity through the I am, we move to identity of frequency. And so with DQ, you're working on a cellular level. When we move into codes, we're working with the DNA. And this is when you start to recognize when you're reaching out into your environment to receive information and you learn how to code and turn on those frequencies like that Yugle system, and you learn to hold your consciousness in frequency. And a lot of times it's learning to hold consciousness in that abstract frequency, but we can actually learn to code our bodies to have this experience. When I first was given this method, I coded for a year, not knowing what the heck it was doing. And the thing is, it started working way before I was consciously aware that it was working. And the moment that I actually knew how well it was working was when I decided to move from Summit County, where I lived for 25 years, and my kids were born and raised. And it was, it was my home. It was the reality that I was in, and it was my roots. And I decided I was going to leave. And I had absolutely no emotional attachment to it. I mean, so much so that I was like questioning myself of what was happening because I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm gonna leave all my friends and I'm gonna leave the kids home and all of those things that you would think that you would go through. And I lived in like one of the most epic places you could ever live, but there was nothing. And I realized then I'm experiencing this in frequency because I had no programs that were running through the experience. I was just having the experience, and it was having an experience in frequency. And it was such a huge awakening in what was possible when we move outside of our programming. So with own codes, what we do, and I'm going to just show it to you, is that we sensitize our consciousness to become aware of where the DNA is still hooking in, just like a Bruce Lipton's work is hooking into our environment to be told what to turn on and what to turn off. And once we see okay, this little strand right here is hooking into its environment. We move our consciousness into it. And because we are observing a program with the intention to move it into the frequency of source, it breaks and it starts to break up and it moves into this random space. And when that happens, it moves back into its original frequency in that source. We have the experience of what that's like. And then source knows, because it's a scalar frequency, exactly what to do. And then it goes and it recodes that same strand, but in an expression. So it's no longer hooking into its environment, it's expressing the frequency of source. And so what we teach is how to read the codes, both from the negative perspective of what the code was saying when it was hooking into its environment, and what the code is saying in the expression of source, so that your consciousness knows exactly what frequency it's attuning to, because that frequency has information. And that is how we break the matrix and we code the new earth through the ascended DNA. In this case, you could also say the new experience of the body, the ascended body.
Oh my goodness. Liberation, evolution, these are words that are coming to mind. Freedom, expression, source. It's almost like I don't even want to put words and labels on it, Jules, because that is going to cause more looping. But I get this. No, I get this. And so, wow. So this is, let's use that word evolution.
Mhm.
We are progressing, because I know some would say, okay, well, I am that I am. These are very valuable, helpful, powerful phrases connecting to our I am presence.
Mhm.
But that's a roadway to moving beyond into where we're going, into that quantum body that has no need for that I am anymore. So for the first level of consciousness, the I am is an activator for that level of consciousness to move into greater power. But I can see how one day, as we evolve, there will be no need for the I am. Where are you at in this? Are you still, I mean, you look great, and great things are happening in your life. Great things are happening with your body. And so do you still find yourself in other levels of consciousness then with your body? Or you, and then you're able to, what happens there?
Yeah, right. Well, so first of all, it's very rare that I go into, like, I'm just like, an example would that be like pain. Like this actually just happened to me yesterday. I was in a
Right.
weightlifting class and I was doing a squat and all of a sudden one of my knees started hurting and I was like, oh, what is that? Like that's never happens. And so but immediately I was like, oh, just ascend it. Like you don't have to have this experience. And so I went in, I brought the technology into the area that I was feeling, and I moved, activated the frequency, and then I had somewhere else for my consciousness to go, right? Because right in that moment, my consciousness was having the experience of the pain. And then when I activated the frequency, it was like, oh, okay, so I can have the experience from there. So there was a part of me that was aware that a little bit that it was still there, but the longer and it maybe took maybe 2 minutes, maybe not even that long. And then by the time I fully attuned, I was fine and I was able to do everything without any pain. And I haven't had any pain since.
Okay, everyone wants that. I do have to say we've had you here on this platform, and we've been working with the 963, that frequency, and you inspire me as you inspire all of us watching and listening. And I was able to do something where, you said you were in the gym. That's a great place to see it. So that inspired me. And I was able to do something myself that was really fantastic. I mean, like push-ups on the beach, right? I was like, wow, no, more than I've ever done in a single day. Not all at one time. I would rest, 20 rest, 20 rest, 20 rest, 20 rest. And I was like, wow. And I was like, okay, that's enough. But since then, there was a pain that came around. So I'm going to do that with the
Yeah.
pain. And so moving out of that pain is to accept the pain, to allow the pain, but then work with the technology. You're going to go over technology and bring that in, but then shifting from the projection of the pain to the attunement of the frequency. Oh,
Yes.
thank
And
you.
there's I just feel like it's just such a valuable time because it shows you how easy we can start to create timelines. And this is an insight that I had because as we start to raise the frequency of our body, we can have some weird things happen, like neurologically, like, it can be like, whoa, am I shorting out? What's happening? And because we're so programmed to have an experience and then name the experience of what it is
Right.
and create a timeline. So you could even do that with a wrinkle, like, oh, I have a new wrinkle. And then all of a sudden you say, oh, I must be getting older. Or, oh, I wonder if this is happening. Or, oh, I probably need this. And we immediately go through our filing cabinet, we name it, and then we start attaching all these timelines to it. When what we can do as an evolved human, I call it the one to the two to the three to the one. So as soon as so here's you, and then boom, you have the awareness and whatever. So this could be pain, this could be a wrinkle, this could be somebody hurt your feelings. It doesn't matter. Whatever this is over here, you have the observation of it. Most people stop there. And then they try to read it through their own consciousness, which is a projection of their own programming. And then they start to loop in it and they try to find, well, how do I get this? And how do I get this? And I'll get this cream or I'll go do this. And like and they continue to have the timeline. But anytime there's two energies that's in the observation, there's always a third, and that's source. And it's right here. So if
Right.
because we have the awareness, oh, I just hit that timeline, boom, we have somewhere to go with our consciousness. And when that happens and we start to attune and we go here, well, then we move, boom, into the one, that allowing the stillness where we're actually existing beyond time. And that's just a practice, right? And that's why I'm so fascinated by using the technology because the technology, it's not my technology. This isn't something that I did. This is a technology that's already inside of you. All I'm doing is giving you a tool to actually turn on your technology. And that's what we call DMT, divine molecular technology. It's already inside you. And when we actively participate in waking that up, turning it on, it's doing it for us. We're not doing it with our consciousness. And that's what's so like kind of blows the mind because then all of a sudden your consciousness will hit the frequency of the technology that's turning on and everything changes. And you don't even know how it happened because it was working without you being aware of it. And that's what's so cool. And I hear it all the time in my classes is like, oh my God, I didn't think it was ever going to happen, but it happened. It happened, and you get so excited because then you went into the experience of what's possible. And once you
Yeah.
have that experience, there's just no going back.
Oh my goodness. I absolutely love this. I know others watching are just amazed, absolutely amazed. And this summit series is called Timelines, Creating the Highest Benevolent Outcomes. But we're actually beyond timelines. New Earth, and I've talked with someone about, what do you say? Creating a New Earth timeline? New Earth has no timelines. It's the 0 point. So we're actually graduating from timelines with this technology. No more timelines, diminishing all timelines, in particular to this, diminishing the aging timeline. But there's no timelines when we attune to source frequency. Wow, amazing.
So, and really like when you think about it, right now we're experiencing our body and our body has life force energy. But because we are in observation through our programming, we're giving we that like a timeline is basically saying I'm putting my life force energy here and then I'm putting it here and then I'm putting it here. And that's what's creating that looping of age and disease is because we're giving our life force energy into all of these timelines. But when we move into an expression of the frequency of our innate being of source, it's just an expression. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just shining. There isn't anything to put it into. And at that point, when you're in expression, it's endless. There's no end to the frequency of source. It's a scalar frequency that doesn't diminish over time and space. It's forever. But we're not observing that it's forever. We're in the expression of that intelligence.
Wow. Again, just feeling into that. It feels really wonderful. And I know people are going to want to work with you on this and take that course. So what do you think is best? Should we talk about the course and then do a little mini expression, or should we look at the mini technology first?
Either way, what feels
Yeah.
best to you?
I would say let's do a little mini session first, because that course is here. It's on this page. I think we want to experience this. And it's just a little taste of the more in-depth work that you're going to be doing. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Of course. So I'm just going to show you the technology first, and then I'm going to actually use the coded cards. But so you'll see there's 8 pyramids, and there the next level of the technology actually that you turn this on and it's going into more advanced space. But so you're going to learn the technology. So each of these represents the 7 levels of consciousness, the 7 light bodies, the 5 levels of consciousness that are in each light body, as well as what I call the God sphere, which is basically being able to read the matrix through codes and then how to actually break out of it. And then you'll see the symbols, which is actually turning on the technology. It's taking the cell, putting it into a 0 point, activating those 7 states of consciousness where you can actually become conscious within the intelligence of source. And then you're turning on the frequency of source. And that's what we'll do now is I'm just going to do, I think I'll do a full DQ with an ohm codes, and I'm going to do it around the programming of what do you have something that's coming to you that what you would like to work with?
Well, if we're talking about aging, there is the programming that we're going to look like our mothers and our aunts and our family. So what would we target there?
Yeah, that my genetics,
My
I
genetic,
was hearing like my genetics control my outcome or something. My genetics control like the experience of what my body will be.
yes, that's a powerful one. Okay.
Okay, we'll do that one. All right, so let's just start by placing hands on heart. And then we're going to breathe in a white blue light, breathing it in, allowing it to trace along the brain, moving down through the spine, and then breathing it out. So this is just attuning the spinal fluid to that frequency of 963, source frequency. And the next breath, you can allow it to enter your heart space, feeling it as it enters your bloodstream. And with each beat of your heart, it's attuning your blood to the frequency of 963. And then in the next breath, allowing the light to move down through the spine. And as it's moving up, it's entering the pineal gland, activating the pineal gland to the frequency of 963. And from here, we'll move right into the master cell. And this is the cell that is holding the programming of every cell of your body. And we're just going to read the belief systems here. Aging is inevitable. There's a timeline of passing diseases on. So if my mom has this, I will have it too. If my dad had this, I will have it too. We're going to look at the belief system of feeling powerless within my own body, feeling like I have no control over how I will age. I may even be feeling like I want to hide. I don't feel beautiful anymore. I feel less powerful. We're going to clear the frequency of shame, the belief that I'm not as worthy if I am old. And then we're going to bring through the first symbol of the luminous, feeling this symbol as it enters the pineal gland into the master cell and begins to spin, bringing the body into 0 point, that neutral space, clearing all of the belief systems that are connected to the genetics of aging. Just feeling that shift in your body as it works with every cell. And then we'll activate the scalar as your body holds consciousness at 0 point, activating your tool of consciousness as an attuning tool. Just feeling that as it activates in every cell of your body. And then we'll activate the 33 as the cells move into the expression, allowing the cell to shift from feeling the shame of aging, the shame of genetics, to the expression of source. I am source frequency. And in this frequency, I am unstoppable. In this frequency, I cannot fail. In this frequency, I am an eternal being of light within my physical form. And then we'll move into the DNA as we trace the double helix, identifying the code that was turned on through these belief systems. And we're going to identify negative 5, 1, 8, 4, 6, 7. And just by bringing our attention to this code, it moves into random form. And we pull it right through the double helix into source frequency. As it shifts to particles of possibility through the intelligence of source. And then when source moves this same experience, but into the expression of intelligence beyond observation, so beyond the mind, that it alters the reality of our body and of our mind. And this frequency recodes to positive 33, 8, 1, 9, 5, 7. Feeling every code of your body as it moves into the expression of source intelligence, allowing you to experience what the body is beyond the timeline of aging and genetics, what your body is beyond the looping cycles that our DNA creates our reality, that our thoughts create our reality, and that when we attune our consciousness to the frequency of Source, we are unstoppable. We cannot fail. We are the full expression of the intelligence of Source through the body. And then just allowing yourself to take in a deep breath and just feeling that frequency of what is activated in your body. And now consciously attuning, just asking to have the experience of what it feels like to attune your consciousness to this frequency. Allowing yourself to have the experience. And just noticing how your body raises in frequency just a little bit more when you allow your consciousness to have the active participation of the ascension of your body. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, that is so wonderful, Jules. There were so many different sensations that move through with that. And just, I feel like I'm floating right now. And so knowing that this never diminishes, we can bring it back. It will diminish with our observation as we move into other looping cycles, but to return to this, that feeling of attuning consciousness to this frequency. Wow, my hands are lit up. I don't even feel the chair that I'm sitting in.
Love that.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. You have shifted this world. You have shifted us. You do incredible work on the planet. It really is quite amazing. A pioneer is what I said. A leader, New Earth leader is another word that I have for you. And science is going to reveal, science is now going to catch up with the work that you're doing.
I look
Yeah.
forward to the day.
It's amazing. Okay. We hope everyone has enjoyed that and can feel that shift, that attunement to this frequency that's in us. Again, the technology resides within us. We are it. And we have experienced that. Hold on to it. Stay attuned to it and watch the miracles. Okay. So awesome. I know people want to continue with this and work with this and work with you. So this is now a beautiful time to talk about your special offer. The special offer is right here on this webpage or wherever you're watching and listening to this video. It's in the description box. There's a link for it. So this is DQ, DNA Expression Cellular Upgrade, a foundation for reprogramming the body to live as this frequency. This is a nice big course. Tell us more about this, please.
Yeah, so it's actually 9 modules, 8 live classes where you learn how to do what the process that I just did. And really that is where we're all moving as well, is that we become empowered by learning the tools to shift our own body, our own programming, our own reality. And so this is a class where it teaches you this process and the tools and how to use the technology to have the experience for yourself so that when you need to shift out of an observation of a program, that you have the tools to do just that. And so it comes with a course, and then it also comes with an hour of mini sessions where I will work with you on whatever it is that you're trying to shift so that you can feel it in your own body as you start to master being able to do it yourself. So that is an hour. And then for the first 10 people that sign up, I'm also offering our 4-week scalar transmission of the facelifts. So it is transmitting specifically the cells of the skin, and it comes with 12 DMT, which is that frequency of 963, divine molecular technology, where it's activating the technology of the skin, specifically of your face, neck, and décolleté for a divine facelift.
Okay, great. So how would people know about the first 10? I guess we'll remove that after
Yeah, yeah.
first 10. What a great option. All right, so sign up, everyone. Get into that bonus. So wonderful. Wow. All right. So again, that's all here on this webpage. Descriptions of these classes, there really may not need to be a description because there's 9 of them, and they're going to work with the group where it's at and teach them this entire process, right?
Yes, yes.
Wow. All right. Thank you. This is really amazing. And your classes are always very popular with our audience. So this is it. And helping us become the bioquantum human. I love it. Okay. Jules, this is so refreshing. And again, you are an incredible researcher, experiencer, and it all comes from your consciousness, awareness to other realms. Vale, who left the planet, he came to you and you shared it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for stepping forward with this and taking it on and bringing it to the planet. It really is remarkable.
Thank you. And thank you for just holding the space for me to share. And thanks for everyone for listening. I appreciate the reflection and just feeling your energy. This is how we're going to shift the planet, is coming together in reflection of that frequency of 963. And I can really feel everyone holding that frequency within them right now. So I just want to honor you in that space.
I see that world where we have graduated from the old paradigm. This is truly how it's done, and it's so wonderful. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Jules. As we say goodbye, I want to leave you a moment for final thoughts.
Oh gosh, I just went blank. Yeah, I feel like if there's the biggest takeaway is the next time you're looking for the answer, just try asking, like place, or the next time you want to place an intention, just notice that subtle energy of when you're asking a question or when you're setting an intention, just notice in your body, because now that you've experienced the technology, it's running in you. Just
Yeah.
notice a frequency turning on, and then just also notice, what does it feel like to attune to it? And what does it feel like to project it? And if you can have that experience right there, your whole life will change, because once you have that awareness, there's no going back.
You cannot put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's wonderful. All right. Well, we are feeling it, and more will be revealed as each of us take this out into the world and hold that frequency. It's all within us, and we have been activated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is fascinating. We're talking about timelines, but we are moving beyond timelines into timeline-lessness. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We love you for your light, and we thank you for being here. Thank you, Jules. Namaste. Thank you for listening to this quantum conversation, and thank you for dancing with us to the cosmic heart. As we raise our own vibration, we raise the vibration of the planet. This show is dedicated to you and all awakening hearts, as we are here to shine our bright light and amplify our love. I'm Loren Gailey, and from my sacred heart to yours, I honor your magnificent love and light. This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.